Hickok 45 here. Welcome to the Hickok 45 Talks channel. I think I have been known to say Hickok 45 Clips channel when I'm not on the Clips channel. The Clips channel is comprised of clips taken from videos, so they're not current. Could be a week old, but usually they're older. It just depends, right? So, and this may be a week old or 2 weeks old. I don't know. I just come out in the woods and do them every now and then. Yes. And so, yeah, I really was a mean teacher. Why am I flipping a coin? Well, I'll tell you about it. I have mentioned this in a Sunday shoot around, I think. Maybe in a Shooting the Breeze, which you might have missed. There could be somebody out there watching who has actually missed a video out of the almost 3,000 videos. You should be ashamed of yourself. Yeah, I hope you feel really guilty about that. But you're out there. I'm sure of that. Yeah, I was mean. I was mean to those poor kids, especially middle schoolers. Gosh, was I mean. Here's how I was mean. Some of you have asked for teaching stories of all things back when I was a mean teacher. So, there's some things I could share with you that would probably bore a lot of you. But anyway, here goes. I was mean in that I had a really low tolerance for people not being prepared. Yeah. I would have had a low tolerance for me back in the day when I was in middle school or high school. But I know, and knowing how kids are, boys and girls, middle schoolers, high school, or whatever grade level, right? We're going to get by with what we can get by with often. And not everybody in the class is a scholar, right? Like about 99% are not scholars. But knowing all that, how I was and how my classmates were when I was in school, and also knowing myself, if I'm going to teach, I'm not going to waste my time, okay? I taught English, a lot of literature, yeah, writing, grammar, everything, but one of my pet peeves was just people not being prepared. And in that, I mean, now everybody's not going to have the perfect assignment, homework assignment, and all that, I understand. But not giving it a really good try. If they were supposed to finish reading a chapter or read so many pages of a novel, whatever it might have been, or a short story, I expected them to read that. I tried not to make assignments like unduly long, particularly as I moved on through. Things have changed over the years. We all know that. People have changed, kids have changed, expectations have changed. Busy world. I taught in private schools. So many of the kids were involved in cheerleading, sports, the band, chorus. They were all involved in, almost all of them, in some kind of extracurricular activity there with the schools. And if not with the schools, they had karate lessons after school, or things like that, or tutoring. It's just a lot going on, really busy lives. And that did kind of evolve through the years. It was a college prep school, both of them that I taught in the two different periods of time, in the 70s and then again in the 90s and 2000s. So, long story short, or long story long, but I try not to overburden the kiddies with really long assignments. They'd go to math class and to history class and right on down the line, and they had work in every class and not a lot of time during the day to get it done, and many had practices and things at the end of the day. So, but anyway, whatever they were supposed to do, I expected them to do that. It was kind of a deal, kind of an understood deal, an express deal. I'm not going to overburden you with 100 pages to read tonight. You're in the 7th or 8th grade. I'm not going to do that to you. But if you've got 8 pages to read, or this chapter, or whatever it is, have it read. okay, or have this written, whatever it is. So I would hold them accountable, and I got better at it as years went by. I guess about the last 15 years of teaching, especially, well, I did it the whole last go around pretty much. A lot of pop quizzes. That's how I was really mean. I discovered it was really worth it to take 5 minutes at the beginning of each class, sometimes longer, and give a quick pop quiz over the homework, or to grade the homework, maybe not every day, but, surprise them and actually count it as a grade kind of thing, because, we're all that way, aren't we? If we know we're going to be held accountable, we will rise to the challenge generally, right? And most of the kids are pretty grade conscious. Their parents are paying a lot of money, and all the teaching I did in private schools, college prep schools. So, and if you've ever taught anything, I don't know, well, anything, but particularly in literature and that sort of thing, you cannot discuss the reading and get deeper into it if, well, you can, but the people who have not read, or they've not even studied it at all or thought about it, they're not going to be a part of the discussion. It's wasted, kind of wasted on them, right? So I didn't want that to happen. So I would pop them with a pop quiz at the beginning of class 2-3 times a week at least, probably the last 15 or so years I taught. And it was pretty effective, I think. They didn't like it. And well, the ones who were prepared liked it, because it was a grade every day, and it really helped boost their grades if they had read the material. And the pop quizzes I would give were not these quizzes with excruciatingly detailed questions. And I might have one on there that was kind of a challenge question, but it was really mostly who shot John, and just make sure you read through the material, and then a question or two that would make sure you read it with your brain turned on. That's kind of the way I did it. But it was pretty much an easy A, definitely an easy B. You should get an A if you read carefully at all. And that's kind of the way they were geared. So anyway, why am I flipping the coin? The pop quiz coin. This is I've always liked silver dollars. And I got to carrying one in my pocket, I don't know, about 20 years, my last 20 years of teaching probably. And I had one or two, I would just have it in my pocket, and I got to pull it out occasionally and say, well, I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I talked about a pop quiz, and someone probably asked, well, let's flip for it, or I might have said, let's flip for it. So that started it. And if anybody is grown up from my classes to be slightly insane, and you're actually watching this, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? So I'd always have my silver dollar pop quiz. And at the beginning of class, sometimes even before class started, we'd middle around or whatever, but when class would start, if they saw me pull out the pop quiz, they knew, oh no, it's here we go. And so we'd flip for it. Ooh, terrible, gambling, right? Teacher encouraging gambling. And I would flip the silver dollar. I'd let someone in the class do it too, if they wanted to sometimes, but I would manipulate the coin. Usually, it's funny. These kids are 7th graders, and they could not take a coin and do that. It's like, what? They couldn't do that. They never flipped coins before. Hardly any of them could do that. They were like, how do you do that? That's funny. So most of them couldn't do it for me. And then if they could get up, they couldn't catch it. It was funny. So I would just say, okay, I'd flip the coin. I'd say, call it, Martha. And that was fun. It really was fun. I enjoyed it thoroughly, probably more than they did, because it gave me a chance to just pick on somebody that way, because they'd have to call it. Whoever I called on would call it, and then they would feel responsible if they called it wrong and they got a pop quiz, And and so it was great fun. But yeah, the pop quiz coin, the sacred coin. Usually it was like a uncirculated or a circulated Morgan or a Peace dollar, of course. The two main silver dollars. But they were real. They were real silver dollars. And at the end of the year, I would present that year's pop quiz coin that I carried every day in my pocket and abused them with every week, over and over. I would present it to a student the last day of classes before exams began. And I would just flip it to somebody randomly. Here's the pop quiz coin. So there's 15 or 20 of my former seventh graders out there who should have the pop quiz coin of that year. I even kept a record of it. I think I still have it probably, in my files. Who got the pop quiz coin each year. I should look them up. Drive to their house. Some of them would have 4 or 5 kids now, 45 years old or something, Where's the pop quiz coin? Did you spend it? Did you take it to a coin shop and cash it in and get your 30 bucks for it, 40 bucks? Did you? Did it not mean any more to you than that? So I should do that, shouldn't I? But yeah, the last day of school then I would present it to somebody. And I say randomly, I can confess now, all of you who got the pop quiz coin or were in those classes know, am I recording? I hope. Now, because you're an adult, wow, the youngest of those groups now would be, like about 24, 5 or something, some up to 35 or 40. You probably realize when you think back about who got the pop quiz coin, because that was, of course, the big event. Who got the pop quiz coin, and they didn't really know that was coming. Some of them they might have known from having a brother or sister in a previous class or something what I would do, but it was always a surprise, and you didn't know which period class that I was going to do it. But I would pick out somebody because it was such a part of the year. It was just symbolic of the meanness of their teacher and the fun we had with it. At least fun I had. And what I would try to do, it was seemingly random, it looked random, but I would pick out somebody, I tried to pick out somebody maybe that I had kind of picked on more than anybody else in terms of making them call it, and they lost a lot of them or something like that. Someone who was a good sport, someone who was, I don't know, just a good kid, but they didn't get a lot of acclaim for much or something. Just a kid that was just a good kid, just something. I'm sorry. I tried to treat everybody the same. And I think if you ask my students, I called on everybody equally. I abused them equally. I gave them hard questions equally, bouncing around the room. You couldn't hide in my class. I'd get you. You couldn't hide. If you hadn't read the assignment, you're going to get called on maybe twice, 3 times. So I wasn't that person that just called on the best students or just the girls or just the guys and all that. But when I gave out the pop quiz coin, it did look random, but I just flipped it to somebody I thought was deserving, not somebody who was constantly causing issues or something. Not that there was a lot of that, but somebody I thought would appreciate it. Someone I thought that probably still does have it, today. Okay, there's not a perfect science, but I had to get somebody out of like 60 kids, 65, to pick somebody and get somebody. All right, so that's what I did, and I'm going too long, I guess, but so that was kind of a fun thing. So every time I see a silver dollar, I think of that pop quiz coin. It's the pop quiz coin. What it did, giving a lot of pop quizzes and trying to make it fun, but it really kept people on their toes, and it made the whole experience way more enjoyable for me as a teacher, and hopefully for the students too, because you could actually have a class discussion about something because everybody was pretty much on the same page. Now some people might not understand it as well, or don't like that particular thing we're reading, whatever it might be, or it could be something we're writing about, or some grammar lessons or something. But people were generally prepared. They would read the material because they knew they were going to get a grade tomorrow, probably. Good chance of that on it. And they would read it pretty carefully in most cases. So that made for a much more interesting class discussion. We've all been in those classes, right? Where you come to class, you're supposed to have read something or worked some problems, figured something out, Well, you're deathly afraid the teacher's going to call on you and ask you because you didn't really read it. I don't know. I didn't read it very carefully. I skimmed it, or I didn't really understand it. At least I say I didn't, because I skimmed it. I didn't read it. and there's always a couple of students who have, or three, and they get all the questions, and the teacher realizes, okay, I'll have to rely on these people, and we'll get the discussion. We'll try to catch everybody up. Well, I wanted them to dig on their own. Now, we did a lot of it in class, a lot of the reading, even aloud, and take turns reading and talk about it as we read through the material. And but whatever they had that night, maybe it was to finish that chapter, whatever it might be, I expected them to dig into it. Because again, I kept it, I think, without being too long. Now, some of my early students wouldn't agree with that. I was probably too tough on early students back in the 90s, probably. But after that, it really did enhance the experience. It made it a lot better. The old pop quiz coin came through for me, and to this day, I think I used a peace dollar most of the time, and so that one especially reminds me of the pop quiz coin. But also there were some Morgan dollars, some of those years, and yeah, it cost me $30 or $40 to give away a coin. It's a small price to pay. I thought it was really worth it, and a lot of fun. So that's really, I guess, about all there is to the pop quiz coin. And if you happen to be somebody who was in one of my classes, if you're watching me now, you need to get a life. You should have had plenty of me, when you were in my class. I feel sorry for you if you're watching this. Not really. I hear from my students occasionally. It's fun to hear from them and talk to them now when they're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. It's fun to run into them. But yeah. So I guess I let the cat out of the bag. It wasn't totally random. Yes, I am human. I wanted to flip it to somebody that would appreciate it. And and the thing is, that was always tough. When it got towards the last week of school, I would start thinking about that. Why, there's a lot of kids I'd love to give this to, because they'd really appreciate it, and they would value it. Just great kids. But I had to narrow it down to one, and that's what I would do. And I would just flip it to them, and I think I would fake it usually, like, all right, do we want a pop quiz? And they, no, we don't. And I just flip it to whoever it was I was going to give it to. Let's don't, just keep it, and we move on. We wouldn't make a big deal out of it. And some of them probably just, oh, good, now I've got hamburger money at the end of the day, So that's the pop quiz coin story. And if you hadn't heard that, it's more proof that I'm not quite sane, right? So, as I said, I enjoy teaching, partly because I was in pretty good situations. Kids are kids. They can be a challenge anywhere. And no, I was not a martyr. I did not go into the inner city in Detroit or LA or New York and see what I could do to enhance the language arts learning of kids that really are in desperate need of I don't know, more one-on-one tutoring or what. No, I'm not that guy. I'm sorry. I admire people who have done that. I've known people who have done that sort of thing. I know myself pretty well. I knew myself pretty well back then, that I wouldn't have lasted. I could do that a couple of years, 3 years, but I would have not, just burned out. I'd been doing something different much sooner. And when I left teaching the first time, I didn't get burned out really. Just some administrative issues, and need to get away from this. It wasn't the teaching part of it. It wasn't the kids at all. When I left in '79 or '80, my first teaching gig, Good thing I'm glad I did. I had a lot of experiences in the '80s in business and different things. But when I came back, you know, I still enjoyed the kids a lot the whole time I was teaching. So yeah, I'm really weird. But again, it's because I was in pretty good situations, and you know, it was when I think of all the things I've done in my life, the careers, everything, whether it's playing college basketball, the publishing industry, and the different jobs and companies I worked with, doing this and everything, in many ways, the highlight of my life, in career life, was really teaching. If you've never done anything like that, it is very rewarding. Everybody says that. Well, not everybody, but it was very rewarding. And like so much of my life, I didn't know how lucky I was because for most of my teaching career, it was, I left in 2013, so what's that, 11 years? See, pretty good at math. Uh, it was before this crazy new world, right? And so, as I have said in a posting or two, that it was getting a little weird and too much micromanagement and all that. But I got out just in time, so I had a really good experience, doing it for the most part. And I think of those times as just great times, really good times. So, and you like to think you did some good, who knows? You don't really know. We're all affected by everybody we've met, every teacher. I can name most of the teachers I ever had. We're all affected a little bit. At least we remember those people, and maybe there's just some little tidbit we take from each one of them, just like we do from anybody else we meet, a neighbor, the lady at the post office, or whatever it is. And then from teachers you're with every day, that same person every day, you either learn to hate them, or you might like them a little bit, and you learn a little bit from them, and you remember that too. Either way, you remember them, right? So everybody affects us in a positive way or negative way, and I like to think I affected most students in a positive way. Tried to make the coursework interesting. Wasn't always successful at it, I'm sure, especially in the earlier years. I think I was kind of boring then. I was probably boring the whole time, but I feel like I wasn't quite as boring because I know I loosened up and had more fun the last 15, 20 years, whatever. So I'm talking too long. I apologize. Let's flip the coin and see if it's time to leave or not. Let's see. Heads I leave, tails I stay and ramble some more. It's tails. So just like with my students, I might use a little trickery. Oh, no, it's heads. I'm going to leave. So anyway. Glad you came by Hickok 45 Talks. I'm sorry for this one going so long, but you got to have an attention span occasionally. Everything is not a reel or a short, okay? Got to focus occasionally, yeah. So, glad you came by. Life is good. I'm done.